the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast with the Enforcer.
I believe they're called enforcers, Gordon. I sell women's shoes.
And the Stallion.
Stallion, baby! I am not what you would call a handsome man.
I'll kick you in the nuts and you'll smile at me and like it.
Oh, nice! Welcome to another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We are your host. He is a Stallion. I am the Enforcer, and I'm trying to find a way to post the live link. So I did it. That's you and I have ran into some troubles lately, so I feel like the troubleshooting on the fly. Hopefully, this will be good to go.
When you say lately, do you mean like the last 30 to 35 years?
Bro, yeah, lately in like the life of Earth. Like,
okay. Yeah.
Christ era Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So we are 10 years to the day of one of the most iconic WrestleManias of all time. Of course, we're talking about WrestleMania 9.
Nope, that's not it.
Iconic. Oh, WrestleMania 12. Lawrence Taylor.
That's 11. But no, that's not the one.
The one with WrestleMania 24. That's what it is. Of course, we're talking WrestleMania 24.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Snooki. No.
No, but funny you should say that because WrestleMania 24 did feature Kim Kardashian. So, 10 years to the day, we are talking about WrestleMania 24 in the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast Retro Review. Let it play.
Keep going.
Don't hear the words. Killed it.
It's instrumental only. So
that's it. Oh, dude.
Next time we do a WrestleMania retro review, I'll get the lyrics in it for you. With people singing WrestleMania and everything. Yeah.
It'll be 1 year to the day today. Then we'll have to do another WrestleMania 24, and we'll just reload this episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So WrestleMania 24. I don't know about you, but when WrestleMania season comes along, I tend to watch but as many WrestleManias as I can to get myself in the spirit, if you will, of WrestleMania. I do it for all the major pay-per-views, and WrestleMania is no different. I've watched several of them. You and I were discussing which ones we should talk about, and you went to, I think, a random number generator, and it came up with WrestleMania 24.
That's correct, because we could not decide which one to discuss on our WrestleMania retro review. As you had mentioned, I have also watched a good number of WrestleManias on the network, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 over the last month or so, and we just kind of randomly picked one out that we would both watch, as soon as we could before we recorded this. So it was fresh on our minds. So we both went ahead and watched WrestleMania 24 over the last week or so. And now we are ready to discuss WrestleMania 24 from 2008, actually, which is kind of crazy to think that was 10 years ago, I have to say.
Yeah, it's crazy, disappointing, disheartening, saddening, maddening, sad.
Yeah.
A lot of other adjectives that just make it really hurt. What were you doing 10 years ago? Where were you 10 years ago, Joe?
It just doesn't seem like, it's interesting. We talk about sometimes with wrestling, right? I think we were having a conversation with Brian and Kyle, our friends in a group chat like a week or so ago, about when did wrestling kind of maybe stagnate, right? As far as when it felt the same.
Oh yeah. I got deep.
Yeah, it was like around this time, like figuring out which WrestleMania where like they kind of like cosmetically look the same, or similar wrestlers, or kind of the booking kind of got into a similar pattern. And I think that's just kind of how my life has gone the last 10 years. I think, nothing really has changed since 2008, except I'm a little bit older, not any wiser, I have to say. I thought that was supposed to come with the territory, but that didn't happen.
You bought a banging condo.
I did buy a condo. That did happen, but
got a new car.
Yeah, but my last one was totaled, so
You met Hunter and Chance.
I did meet Hunter and Chance. Yeah, they were born. I guess those are good things.
That's really all we have.
That's it, man.
Yeah, no, like we were saying, like think of it right now, like the way I've been looking at it, because I've been reflecting a lot. 10 years ago to this day. So from 2018 to 2008 is a 10-year span. And then you look at the just in terms of wrestling, not even in terms of life and technology and all the other shit that's going on. Think it in terms of wrestling from 1995 to 1985. Literally night and day. 1999 to 2000. Like so much has changed. And since 2008, we're pretty much exactly where we were. Except the women, I would say the women's revolution. Really, we wouldn't be anywhere without Ronda Rousey. Stephanie McMahon. That's all that kind of stuff. I would say the biggest thing would be the women's revolution and the WWE network. But the in-ring product, in the WWE at least, is still pretty much the same.
Yeah, a lot of it is, I think, as I was rewatching WrestleMania 24 for the first time in a while, and you look at a lot of the main matches that took place on the card, and there's a lot of guys that are still around and in main event or in major matches at coming up at WrestleMania 34 in a week. Guys like John Cena, Undertaker, Triple H, Randy Orton, all of these guys are still in big matches 10 years later, some of them even revolving around the titles. So it's, it's interesting, I guess, as far as how that stuff all plays out. But I will say that and we can go through it in more detail. I'm sure we will, but I will say that I watched WrestleMania 24. I remember at the time I enjoyed it as a show. And I watched it again in the last week, and I enjoyed it still now, even though there's some stuff that's kind of, the same as it was back then, but I still enjoyed the show overall. I was able to watch it, and I probably could watch it again, maybe a few months or a year or something from now if I wanted to sit down and watch it, and I wouldn't be bored.
Yeah, I mean, it's no December to Dismember, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And while we're talking about pretty good, let's kick it off. WrestleMania 24. The opening match of the night was something that I don't think anybody watching then had any expectations for whatsoever. It was JBL against Finley, in a bar fight, Dublin street fight, some sort of street fight is what it was.
A Belfast brawl, actually.
Belfast brawl, fine. The deal is we had just found out that Hornswoggle, little bastard, wasn't Vince McMahon's son, and it turns out he was Finley's son. And then JBL proceeded to beat the holy hell out of him on, I think it was on Raw. Yep. So this was Finley trying to get his comeuppance. This match was far more enjoyable than it had any right to be, period. Neither JBL, I don't know, how can I really put this politically correctly? JBL needed a brassiere. In this match, he was not in the best shape. It was towards the end of his in-ring career. I think maybe 2 years after that, maybe 1 year, whatever it was.
I think so.
But Finley was no spring chicken, but Finley could still work. Finley actually kind of reminds me of like a Yuji Nagata or a Chono in New Japan. They're like 50, 55 years old, but they could still work their kind of match. But these guys made up for their shortcomings in the ring with the plunder, if you will, Dusty Rhodes used to say. They beat each other senseless. They were super stiff on each other. I think somebody got busted open. Was it? I forget who it was.
I don't remember if they did. Yeah, but it was a very whatever you would call modern day hardcore match where there wasn't like an over the top brutality to it, but they used weapons like trash cans and kendo sticks, and Finley has that shillelagh that he used, and I think the match wasn't bad. It was probably more, like you said, more entertaining than I expected it to be. Probably helped by the fact that it was the opener and the crowd was super into things as WrestleMania was getting started. So, considering how silly the storyline was with the whole Hornswoggle, son angle with Vince and Finley, and I don't really even know or understand how JBL fit into things there, but the match was better than I expected it would be. So it wasn't a terrible way to start the show.
No, not at all. We didn't. I just shut my phone. Are we giving star reviews for each match? How do you want to do it? Or do you want to just give an overall for the show?
Well, we can give an overall for the show. Maybe we'll give star ratings for the big matches. Like I think there's 2 title matches right on this show, and then and Michael's Flair. Maybe we can kind of give it for the main ones if you'd like to go that way.
Deal. Oh, and I gotta say, they did a good job of storytelling here because I actually felt bad for Hornswoggle throughout this match. There was a spot when it definitely wasn't planned. JBL had the garbage can from the ring. Hornswoggle wasn't looking, and he wung the entire garbage pail at him, caught him right in the face. I actually felt very bad for Hornswoggle.
That was a tough spot. Yeah, that was a tough spot.
Yeah,
and JBL went over, which I was also surprised about too. So, but yeah, the match wasn't bad. Not a bad way to kick off the show, even with a gimmick match like that. But the interesting part was after that match, they went into another gimmick match, sort of, if you will, right? The Money in the Bank ladder match was the second match on the card.
Yeah, the Money in the Bank, and you're right. They usually don't do the back-to-back gimmick matches, but this was Carlito versus Chris Jericho versus CM Punk versus John Morrison versus Mr. Kennedy versus MVP versus Shelton Benjamin. And like you said, this is 8 years ago, and half of these guys, even more than half, are still relevant, even if they're not in WWE. This was, to me, a lot of the, looking back on it, if I didn't just watch it, a lot of the Money in the Bank ladder matches kind of blend together because there's only so many things you could do, and I don't want to say it's an archaic formula, but it's 6 guys on the outside, 2 guys doing spots in the ring, somebody comes in to save, double ladder tip over, stuff like that. I thought Shelton Benjamin worked his ass off for this match. I thought he was definitely one of the shining stars. CM Punk didn't get as much. This was just before the CM Punk era and all the stuff he done in SmackDown started. So he wasn't, he wasn't as over as he was later in his career. But I thought the match was good for what it was, and my favorite part about it was the creative finish.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. I mean, like you said, when you have these ladder matches that they do, and they put so many guys in the match, I could see. I don't know how it is for the wrestlers, but I could see maybe it being more difficult the more guys you have in it. So the fact that they keep stacking guys in here, and they just kind of a lot of mix and match of different things. And there was some cool spots in there, like you said. I think Benjamin was a guy like before Kofi Kingston started popularizing all the crazy spots he does in the Rumble. I think Shelton Benjamin used to do a lot of crazy spots in ladder matches. He would run up the ladder and take these crazy bumps and stuff like that. He was kind of known for that. So he did some cool stuff here. Morrison did some cool stuff. I think he did the moonsault off the top to the outside while holding a ladder. I think that was in this match as well.
Yeah, he did. That was absolutely crazy.
They paid off, I think, a storyline that I remember, but I don't remember all the details, which was the Matt Hardy MVP storyline where Hardy had gone out injured and MVP was the U.S. champion. So Hardy had run in during the match when MVP was about to grab the briefcase and gave him a twist of fate off the ladder, and the crowd went nuts for that. And I think at the time, I don't remember who I was expecting to win.
Jeff Hardy, because Jeff Hardy had just gotten suspended previous to this. I don't know if you remember.
Okay, maybe that's what it was then. Yeah, because I don't think I was expecting Punk to win, because I remember, I thought back to when I was first watching it, and when Punk won, I was pretty surprised by that. And I was pleasantly surprised because I liked CM Punk, but I was surprised that he won. So it was interesting that they went that route, and then he, of course, would go on to win the World Heavyweight Championship. I think around July or August, I think, of that year from Edge on Raw. So that was how that all.
And they do sorry to jump forward, but wasn't like a legacy thing where he never lost the title, and they beat him down and took it off him?
Yeah, they had these. I think it was at Unforgiven in September. They had these scramble matches, the 6-man scramble matches. That was kind of a new thing at the time, and he was supposed to defend the title in that. And Legacy took him out backstage, and Orton punted him in the head, and he couldn't actually defend it in that match. And Jericho, who had lost to Shawn in an unsanctioned match earlier in that show, took the spot in that match and ended up winning the title at the end. So,
there's ever a question I have, I know at the end, in your heart of hearts, the answer's in there. I will say the finish was cool because it was Jericho. I think it was Jericho. It was Jericho and Punk on the ladder at the end.